We are sponsored by Young You Organics with this lovely white sage smudge spray, and it has beautiful ingredients. And the ingredients are purified water, white sage essential oil, clary sage, palo santo, lemongrass, rosemary, sea salt, and some blue apatite crystals. And you could use it really in place of any kind of smudging that you would do with smoke, be it Palo Santo or some sage or whatever you would use for smoke. If you don't like the smell of smoke or its lingering effect, and you could use it to bring about a change of pace through your day. If you're having, a difficult day, spray this, connect with its spirit to really bring about relaxation, and you could invoke it to do so. You could spray it on your bed sheets at night and ask it to bring you pleasant dreams. And you could use it sort of like a cologne if you want. I particularly enjoy it that way. And before ceremony, using it to calm and relax my energies. And these are just some ways you can use it. You free your creativity, use it any which way you like. And if you go to the Young You Organics website, which there will be a link in the description of this podcast, where it will bring you to the site, and you can order some and get yourself some white sage smudge spray with this beautiful lion on it. Melissa, got anything to add?
It's a handmade product and it's made by a shamanic practitioner. So all of the um, energies are infused to help benefit the user and all that Nick shared with us in cleansing the space, clearing the space, bringing relaxation, shamanically charged.
Yeah, it's a wonderful product. We highly recommend it.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Me too. Me too.
Like,
It's a good ritual to bring
yeah, it
it
just
into
brings a
the
little
room.
change, almost like you go into ceremony to change directions. A little bit of smudge spray. It's such a simple act, but it really can kind of just change the nature of your day or the direction that it may be heading in.
Yeah, yeah. And what I like about it too is it like brings about a sensorial type of experience where you get to like spray it. If you spray it on you, you feel like the mist, and then you get the smell of it, and then what that does to your brain. Like there's the shift.
Certainly, it changes everything that you're perceiving.
Yep. So link in the description. Get yourself some and enjoy.
So, what's on the agenda today, Nick? What's on your mind?
I guess we don't have too much of an agenda. We were sort of crunched for time, so the meeting crisis sort of on the back burner for a little bit. But I don't know. I was thinking a lot about life and death this past week, and I was at my sister's wedding, and just seeing like all the family members that haven't been under one roof in a while, and just getting together and celebrating. It was really nice, and then coming home and leaving all my family behind, and just like thinking like, oh, that might be like the last time I, see some of the older members of my family. But I've always had this like really just acute awareness of death for me, and it's like, well, I might not I might not see any of them again because I might be the first one to go in
Mm,
this life. And so it's just like has got me sort of in a way grieving about this fact of death, and really not ever knowing when it's coming. And yeah, I don't know if it's because like I hit my 30s now, I'm thinking about this more, or
You're getting
what.
old.
But
The years are creeping
I
up on you in your
uh,
30s.
I don't know. Not really. It's not that, but I guess just sort of a sense of like, if I'm lucky, I get another like 60, maybe 70 years at this at this life. And yeah, never really knowing of when really the last day is gonna be. I mean, I think we're often taught like this delusion of like, oh, death will come for me tomorrow. And then everything that I've learned in shamanism is like, no, dude, it could be today.
I'm not sure I was taught the same thing.
No,
I don't know if that's a delusion I have. I mean, I understand it could be any time.
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
well, I guess the way I used to frame it before I started learning shamanism was that like, oh, like today might or like, you might not get tomorrow. I don't know. It's like just a weird framework I think we're given by society of like make today count because like you might not get tomorrow. It's like, well, you might not get to later today either.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, of course. But I don't think it's not, it doesn't make the other thing any less true.
True. It doesn't. Yeah, it's just like yeah, I'm thinking about that and all of that and just like thinking at the end of it like what do not even accomplishment. I don't even know because like yeah, I kind of want to do certain things. I want to accomplish certain things, but like how I don't know. I guess to measure like what does it mean to like actually live really well?
Yeah, well, luckily that could be an individual thing. You don't have to go by anyone else's standards. I think that would actually be not living well.
Yeah, yeah, trying to conform to someone else's standards that doesn't quite meet your own definition of what success would be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at
What
a
would that?
certain point, I think, I was gonna say, at a certain point, I think when we're younger, I mean, we almost have no choice but to maybe conform to other people's standards. You know, your parents raise you, maybe focus on what they value, and hopefully they have values that when you get older, you are in agreement with. But some parents could be, focus on, right, like success at all cost or having a lot of money is successful. Whereas perhaps that you might come to find that's not your cup of tea.
Yeah, I know certain members in my family would say like if they had $1 billion, they would want 1 billion and one, and then just frame success as being only in monetary value. But I
Yeah.
think it's just a very limited understanding of what success really looks like. There's more success than, just being financially successful.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Just what would that success look like for you? How do you define that?
Um, Louis and I have talked about this, and he talks about how for him, like his mom is from Vietnam, and after or during the war, she has, I don't even know how many brothers and sisters, but her and at least one of her sisters came here on a boat to our country on a boat. And, she owns her own business now and is able to, sustain her life for her and Louis' dad. I mean, he works as well. And so she worked really hard to, establish a life here and be able to like support her family. So Louis looks at it as like, being able to give our family, like our kids, um, a, a good, I don't know, like a foundation for them to continue with. And part of that is in term is in is with not necessarily, um, yeah, is having some like financial resources. And then I look at it, for me, I think what I'm focused on is my like the consciousness development and the spirituality development, and I hold down that part of the family. So, like, what is successful? I think it's just, having certain aims in various areas. So, like in friendships and marriage, my relationship with the kids, relationship with the family. The way things are now, you have to almost have to work. So, career wise, having, doing something that I love and that I feel is valuable. I think just being able to, yeah, focus on the things that I think are important is kind of where I'm headed with the success. I get caught up sometimes. I'm like, do I need a lot of money? Or am I just like trained to want a lot of money? I mean, clearly it's helpful to have enough money in order to, meet your kids' needs, meet the needs of the family, like wanting to eat healthy food. I think I was telling you this. I looked up like a pound of pastured chicken is $24.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. I mean, so truly healthy food isn't really even an option for most people, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
But being able to like take care of myself in the ways that I want to, I feel like that would be success. Yeah.
Love it. Love it all.
How about
Sounds
you?
good. For me, well, I would say in the past year it's shifted for me as far as now, I wouldn't say in the past year that my only measure of success was going to be financial. I'd say over the past 5 years that's changed for me in the sense of really coming to understand that my own unique success looks like developing in consciousness to just be at a high level of consciousness. I don't know how else to say it, but just like being, a more loving, a more kind, and a more compassionate person for myself and for others, and to really reprogram my brain so that it can align with all of my success and so that I can release self-sabotaging patterns. And going back to the money part, I would say like a year ago, like one of my drives was to become a millionaire. And I wanted to do that through marketing, and I wanted to do that through marketing for dentists. And I really realized that it was really shallow for me, and I could not put my heart into it because, like, I didn't resonate with it, other than like I just wanted a really good payday. And so that financial success looks for me anymore of I want to do something as far as work to gain income that is in alignment with what I really want to do. And what I really want to do is to help people move beyond their traumas. And so I think for me, uh, with the plant medicine facilitation and becoming a therapist and psychology, and also too with physical fitness and living a healthy lifestyle. And I don't really know how I'm going to do it yet, but some way of just like merging all of that and making money from it, and being able to have a comfortable living and do the things that ultimately I resonate with. and provide for myself and potentially, a family one day. Um, a means to just live really well and eat healthy foods and do a lot of fun things and to continue my education. And so for all of those things, that looks like success for me. And then I would say there's another aspect of success too, in which I kind of want to actually focus um, all of it sort of simultaneously. I don't even know if I want to give it a hierarchy anymore, but I mean success too in friendships and with family and with community and having relationships that have a foundation of just being, healthy. And even if I can't achieve that with someone, then understanding like having healthy boundaries with that person, I would also say is part of my success. I think it's really multifaceted anymore for me. And yeah, it's just taken on, I would say, more than just I want to become a millionaire, something like that, where like that was my past, and so that's what's changed for me. And I think a teaching that Hamilton says in his book um, about money is learning about your own unique success, and I think we were touching upon that of like what does that look like for you, and we're sharing what that looks like for each of us, and our own unique definitions of what that is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we were kind of hitting at the beginning, is that you get to decide that for yourself.
Yeah, I think when what we were talking about and what it's leading into is legacy. Like, what do you want to leave behind? How are you going to, you know, um, for lack of a better term, influence the people that are around you? Like, is it going to be a butterfly effect of creating like health and positivity and healing in the world? Because that's what I want ultimately. I think that's what my success looks like.
Well, you're well on your way.
Well, thank you. It's encouraging. You too, for sure.
Yep, that's what I'm
Can't
here
stop,
for.
won't stop.
No, not at this point. I saw that whatever I do now, it's not for now, it's actually for sometime in the very distant, I don't know when, but future.
Well, you have kids. I mean, like, how does that sort of influence, and how has that influenced how you define success, and like, how has that changed from before you were a mom to now being a mom?
I don't know if it necessarily changes, it just more so like adds more dimensions of parts of the life that I need to focus on. So if I didn't have kids, I don't wouldn't care about being a I wouldn't care about my, being a mom. But so part of what I work at is to, impart my values and teach them. I don't know if it's integrity, but I guess show up in my own integrity so they can learn that and just, I don't know, help them navigate the world in the best way that I can, and hopefully be as loving and compassionate and non-judgmental to them as I can be. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure if it changed my definition of success, but it just really had to add more stuff to focus on. I mean,
What would those additions be if you could put it in words?
well, I mean, like I said, like having, kind of, well, defining for myself like what a good mom is, and then learning how to raise them the best that I can, imparting the things that I think are important onto them.
I think that is a definition of a good mom, non-judgmental, being there, and and support and all of what you just said.
Yeah, I think so. It's hard. It's an interesting role, mother, because I mean, you have everyone's definition of mom in there, and then a lot of mm, perhaps like enculturation of what a mom is supposed to be like, and then having to tease out, well, what does it really mean for me? Has been a journey, something that's certainly ongoing. At first, I didn't really, not that I didn't think it was an important role, but it wasn't something I, not, it's not that I didn't value it. It's almost that well, it's no big deal if I'm a good mom. Like, almost not seeing value, yeah, almost not seeing value in the role of the mother. And I think that's related a lot to how caregiving roles in capitalism are traditionally like not only like undervalued, but really just not valued.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we've talked about this before, but just to bring it up again for the sake of conversation, is that, you can look at maternity leave and like most women are like working up until the point that they're giving birth,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
nuts.
yeah. We talked about that. I remember. That is nuts. I remember working, yeah, basically up until I couldn't anymore. But you want to because you get such a short amount of time with the newborn. It's like the most important time. And yeah, you have like the only organs that are meant to feed another person, right? Women have these breasts that are like literally meant to care for their children, but then it's like, oh, well, you have to go back to work in 6 weeks. Like a 6-week-old baby needs the care of its mother, the nurturing that it gets from that relationship. And not, I mean, listen, I know not everyone could breastfeed, and there's many, many, many things that go into that. And but ultimately, like that's how we were created.
Absolutely. I think it touches upon the point too of just like how in capitalism or Western society, for the most part, I think we put too much emphasis on work and making money. And I mean, it shows with the requirements of a maternity leave. Like, yeah, you get 6 weeks. Like, 6 weeks? 6 weeks? That doesn't seem like very much at all.
Yeah. It's not very much. It's not at all a lot.
It's
It's a
definitely not.
very, yeah, it's a very sad time when you have to leave your baby. And the thing is, too, like for women that give birth, I mean, you just spent 9 months growing a human. You know, we kind of like normalize these things, but I mean, it's really pretty miraculous. And it really does also put a lot of like stress on your body, and your hormones really do kind of get all out of balance. And then you're expected to, be a new mom, be like go back to like have this new role, but also like do all the other things that you were once required to do at all of your other roles, career wise and everything else. Yeah, and the career doesn't usually account for any kind of human capacity or capability, right? It's just looking at us as like these vessels that are capable of the same output all of the time, when in fact that's so unrealistic.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think we're dealing with the remnants of industrialization. Just keep producing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, not even industrialization. Look how we treated people in this country before that, right? Expecting them to just, like in slavery times, like just like work without feeding them or just work all day long.
Yeah, work, work, work.
Yeah, just work with like no regard for the humanity of a person.
Yeah, I think luckily since then we probably it's gotten better, but there's still aspects of our society, and I don't think we've completely gotten rid of slavery altogether. Like that shit still exists in the world.
Oh, it certainly does. I mean, I've heard statistics that, there's less slaves now. Okay, great, less. I mean, I
Yeah,
suppose that's something that's good, but but the fact that, right, it still exists.
yeah. It's like what level of slavery are you comfortable with?
Yeah, who are you comfortable enslaving? But I don't think most people even know.
No, I don't think most people even know. I don't think most people even know, and I probably have a hot take on this one. I don't think most people even know because most people are themselves a slave to working for money. You don't have a choice in the matter. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna just like go and, live off grid? Like that will require money. So you're forced to participate in the economy, whether you want to or whether you don't want to, and whether it's for the good or for the bad. But it's still like, a form of economical slavery. I think even the billionaires, they're just as much as a slave because they're just playing this game too. So
Hmm.
and again, it goes back to like what level of slavery are you comfortable with? I mean, like the people who are mining, these minerals that we need for our cell phones, or the mother that after 6 weeks of maternity leave is then forced to go back to work because she needs to economically be there to support her family, even though perhaps she needs to be around her baby a little bit more for the overall benefit of the development of the baby.
Yeah, I mean, I see that perspective.
It's like you get a choice of what aspects of the economy you want to participate in, but you don't get a choice if you want to participate in the economy or not, depending on where you live at in the world. Like if you're born, into pretty much any kind of, economical system.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get much of a choice if you want to participate in life either. I mean, you're just a slave to life, basically, if you want to put it that way. If like you're going in that direction.
I mean,
Like, did
yeah,
you make the choice? I mean, some people say there's like soul contracts. I don't know about
I
that.
don't
I have
know.
never had any experience one way or the
Me
other,
neither.
so I cannot say.
Same.
Um, but some people say like you make a choice to be here. I don't know about you though. I don't remember making any kind of choice. My memory's not that good, so I don't know. But
Yeah, yeah. I guess it really all depends on how you'd like to define it.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, with all of that, I think I used to be like really pissed off at all of that. Now anymore, it's like, well, what am I gonna do? Spend my whole life being pissed off about it? Am I gonna go fight it? No, I'm not gonna fight it. And I'm
No.
not gonna continue being pissed off about it either. I just kind of am asking myself of like, okay, with at the legacy point of, if I'm lucky enough to get another, you know, 70 years at this thing, at that point, like, how do I live within this human society? How do I live within this human system and like help it out along the way and live a really awesome existence?
Yeah. I mean, I think I like looking at it that way. There are a lot of structures or ways that are and systems that are already in place that we may not have a choice to be a part of them, but we do have the choice of how we want to kind of interact within them. And I think I don't like I understand what you're saying where you're calling it slavery, but I don't like to call it that only because I mean there are some choices. There are some decisions we can make within it. And then I mean there are some people that literally are like stolen and enslaved.
Yeah, perhaps it is
And they
insensitive.
have absolutely no choice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, I just feel like even if you're saying like I'm not angry about it, like even just saying like I'm a slave to this, there is some like anger there. There is some like resentment. There is some uh I don't know. It's really like it's a really like insubordinate position. Almost like well, you're giving your power away because in some cases like people's power is literally taken. I think too, it kind of discounts like what real slaves had gone through. Like look how much freedom you have compared to someone who was stolen and forced to work.
I think it still goes back to though of like, there's like levels of it, and I don't think
Yeah.
any of it's good.
Yeah, like I said, I understand the perspective that you're taking on that. I just tend to maybe not use that word.
Well, I mean, it's a word that, implies a lot of really horrible shit. And
Yeah.
it's like what it is. I just think, from
I
my
mean, use
experience,
the word in terms of like I'm a slave to the economy. I understand what you're saying. I understand that um, I'm required to pay to live, basically, or to pay for all of my resources except for water. And if I want to have water that doesn't have chemicals that cause cancer in them, I have to literally pay to have a special water system. So even that I do have to pay. So I understand like I have to pay for all these resources that are, I mean, it's hard to say now food because like someone else is making it for me. I suppose I could grow all my own food, but I would still need some money then. Or perhaps like if there was some other system, I would be bartering or exchanging stuff. Um,
I
Forgot where I
personally
was
don't
going.
think as a society we'll ever go back to bartering after the invention of money. But I get what you're saying too. I mean, like I like to think about it in terms of like if I was able to live in a community where we all pitch in and we grow our own food and we have our own cattle, it would still require money. Like the fact like Amazon's not going anywhere and I still want my Amazon membership. I still want Netflix. I still want Crunchyroll. So, yeah, I mean, like it's not going anywhere.
I mean, perhaps yes and perhaps no. I don't know in my own imagination like what is beyond money, but I'm trying to open up to that, right? Like what is beyond what we know now?
Yeah, I think it's an unknown at this point. Like we can imagine it, but then for that to actually happen, it might turn out differently than how we imagine it.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think that's just a part of like the materialization process.
Yeah. I guess what I would hope for is where there's a system where it really would focus on the unique success of the individual and supporting that economically. Like if someone's like stuck working a job, but like they really want to go get an education to get out of that job, like I don't know if strapping that person with like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to go get a college education, and it doesn't have to be a college education, but I mean, just in this um, example, like, is that good for society? I don't know. Maybe, maybe
Yeah,
not though.
it's so complicated, right? Because then the whole way that the education system works needs to change or has the possibility or potential to change. the way that we, uh, I don't know. It's a really complicated question.
If you could change one thing about the educational system, what would you change?
I mean, I don't know much about the higher education system at this point. I've been out of it.
You've
But
been through it though.
yeah, I've been through it. But I mean, for college, I wish I had more guidance in terms of figuring out what it is that I wanted to study. So perhaps for me, it would be more guidance, but I'm sure there is guidance. I just didn't know, or no one was offering it to me, but I would have liked that. I think in terms of like, I know a lot more about the elementary school system, and that seems kind of not suited to the actual like stages of development and what the kids need. We were talking about this earlier. There's like a lot of sitting, and I mean, most of their day is just spent kind of receiving information and not a lot of time, like unstructured time. You don't have a lot of unstructured time. And I don't think there's a lot of like emphasis on imagination or like um specific I don't want to say specific, I don't know if the word skills, maybe like capabilities or capacities. It's more so just like learn this math, which is important in the way things are structured now. It's important to learn to read and write. Those are like cornerstones of the systems that we're living in right now. So, I mean, that stuff is important, but I think it kind of overemphasizes that stuff, like the mind dominant intelligence versus, you know, being a compassionate person. I mean, also that stuff is hard to teach at this age. Not that it shouldn't be done. I one time read this book. I'm not gonna remember the author. He's an Indian gentleman. He was running a school in India where the way the school was structured, the kids go to school and they go there and they all cook breakfast. So they have to like plan the meals. They have to, figure out the supplies they need. They clean up, they organize. So you learn those kinds of like skills that could be translated into everything. Planning, organizing, categorizing, classifying, cooperation, cooking, cleaning, which are the skills that we all need. So maybe something like that, like a more functional approach to, how are we going to solve daily problems and work together versus like someone just giving you all this information.
Yeah, yeah. I would answer in a similar way of instead of learning information and then regurgitating that same information and then, calling that learning, rather having, direct experience of problem solving and creation and cooperating with each other. You mentioned cooking, like that's pretty important. I saw this thing in Instagram where it was, I think it was like a Chinese school, but the kids were like outside and they were all learning how to cook. And I think it was like a class that, they would have to take when they're a really little kid. And I thought that was pretty interesting, learning how to cook. And yeah, I think like more of the problem solving that isn't like, oh, I need to remember this information that the teacher is teaching me, and then if I can recite this information or remember this information correctly, then I'm a good student and a good problem solver. Because like that doesn't necessarily translate uh, outside of school. For the most part, it's not information regurgitation to be able to problem solve. It requires a lot more skills than that. And so I think in a certain way, when that's the only thing that's being taught, and then and then graded, it doesn't really set you up other than just like being good within that system. And then when you get outside of that system, it's like, wait, what did I just do for the past 15 years of my life?
Yeah. It's a very narrow definition of success or learning or the capabilities that they're developing in the school at least at that age.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, cooperation would probably be up there on my list of like ideally of what I think would be good for kids to learn
Yeah,
at a young age.
I mean, I know they try to do that in the school. Like they try to like teach respect and kindness. My kids like don't, not that they can't define it, but we talk about it. I'm like, how could you be, how could you be kind? Usually it's kind of like rule following things, like listen to the teacher, raise my hand, not talk when the teacher's talking.
Yeah, yeah. Which I mean, hey, that is like being respectful.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it all ties back to like what we were saying though about like in the beginning of like just living well and yeah, like, having those be, points of integrity, respect and cooperation, all of that. I think
Yeah,
that's what you can live really well with.
we're big
That's how
time trying to teach the kids respect. We got a long way to go.
I think it goes back to something that we were talking about outside of the podcast of like when you're a kid, you're just kind of like this little primal being, you know? You're not,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, you have no idea of like anyone else's perspective, so it's kind of hard to necessarily always be respectful. And right, it's not something that you gain until, it's not like you have it. I guess Lucas is coming into it now at 9. This is like the time. But so you've already had 9 years of like, right, living this like very self-oriented life.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, they say like, what was that? Ken Wilber say, I don't necessarily agree with saying like that all kids are little narcissists who could only think about themselves, but I mean, like, there's an aspect of, growing up where from like age whatever to age whatever, like, I don't think you're too capable of thinking outside of yourself. And then when you reach a point where I think that becomes um, more of a thought process of just, you know, thinking about yourself and then evolving into thinking about others. And that's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about. I think that's correct. I mean, based on what I know from like child development and stuff, that you don't understand that other people have a perspective or feelings or a point of view until a certain age. Just it's just the way that the like the brain development is.
Yeah, I think that's where, like you could see a lot of people perhaps get stuck to, like when you're seeing someone who's just selfish or they just get stuck in these stages and haven't really developed beyond it. You see a lot of adults who are like that. My
Who are
opinion's
selfish.
right. Yeah, or just like
Yeah.
just being caught in like being opinionated, like my opinion's right, and if you don't agree with me, then well, we gotta argue and figure out who's right, and I don't care how much we argue because I'm just gonna think I'm right, kind of behaviors.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those people are stuck not being able to see other people's perspectives or they're stuck kind of like somewhere else. It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. I think it would
And
all probably good.
I was just gonna say, likely it's also just not one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to limit it to just being one
Yeah, I don't
thing.
think it's ever just one thing.
No, no. But I think it could stem back from just like dysfunctional families of, where I'm not saying this is in every scenario, but it could just be dysfunctional families who, perhaps you were, I don't know, berated because you had a particular opinion, and then you gotta like fight for that opinion, and then it just causes a bunch of haywire to go on in the brain, and then that can lead on to later in life of being like really opinionated, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's one way it happens.
Mm, yeah,
I mean, and most of everything that we're dealing with is how we were parented or the environment that we were raised in from like 0 to 5.
yeah, yeah. It's really that is so fascinating to me of how you get programmed is like a real good marker of how you're going to behave then later on down the road. And I was thinking about this the other day too. Like, it's not just going back to what we were talking about with school. It's not just like parenting. It's also like how you're institutionalized
I'm
with
not
the
sure I
condition.
understand.
Well, with the conditions that you're given, not just from 1 to 5, but perhaps from like 5 to 10, and then from 10 to however long you're institutionalized for within schooling, if you're public school, and then college, like those are the formative years in which your brain is developing. It totally has an effect then how you behave then and how you conceptualize and frame reality then beyond it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my success though looks like looking at what the positive aspects of that are, and then keeping those and looking at the negative aspects of what all of that is, and then uh, reprogramming my brain to not be caught within that type of ideology and structure and concepts.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing about humans that that happens, but I think that's, kind of the path. If you choose to go that way,
Meaning, sorry, I didn't follow
you're
that.
raised in your family of origin, so you almost have no choice there but to inherit and take on everything from your parents and your family through nature and nurture. And then you're in the school you're in, you're like on that track that your parents are supporting or not supporting, that your society is supporting or not supporting. And then you get to a point where you're like, is this working? Like, what do I actually want? What really is success for me? Like, what are the actual aims that I think are worthwhile? What does give my life meaning? I mean, if you're lucky enough, like, to ask yourself those questions, right? Like, what is it that I value? Am I in my integrity? What is integrity? If you're lucky enough to answer those questions, then you go through like the process of reorienting everything.
Yeah, I think that's what you're describing as the path of awareness or the path of being conscious of, how your psyche is structured and questioning like what's true, what's not true that I've been given, and all of it really. And yeah, I think, like you said, if you're fortunate enough to be able to come to that awareness and ask those questions, I don't know if everyone gets to that point, but
No, certainly not.
I know for me personally, I have in my early 20s, luckily, and I've been on that path of asking those questions ever since. And I think continually asking those questions because I don't think like it ever really stops of the path of becoming aware and becoming conscious of your own internal structures and the external structures, and how to live within that and live really well. And yeah, Yeah, and I think like going back to of what we were talking about in the beginning of like that always looming aspect of life that's death, being present in a way, um, yeah, it just gets me thinking about all of that and how I want to treat other people and how I want my life to play out. More consciousness, more awareness.
Yep, I'm on board for that.
Well, we hit about the 50-minute mark, and I know that's all the time we have for today. So, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, I'm good.
Same here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And if you liked it, give us a like, give us a share. We think we're being shadow banned, so we're going to try to figure out how to get our title of the podcast visible. And so share this if you liked it. I haven't said that already. Um, and thank you everyone for listening if you made it this far. And until the next time, bye everyone.
Bye.